What's up, everybody? Mystery Lane back with another processing video. This is the same lesson we did in class on if statements, so we're going to get a little more practice with if statements. And then a lot of the classes I didn't get as far as being able to draw a little traffic light, so we're going to go up through that, and that should be able to give you everything you need to complete the homework assignment. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make that small little screen that switches colors back and forth. So if I'm on the left side and there's a green rectangle on the left side. If I'm on the right side with my mouse, then there's a green rectangle on the right side, and then the background is red. So let's go ahead and make our background command. So red is 255.00. So let's get that done. Okay, and now we're going to draw a rectangle. So rect 0, 0, and then we're going to do that width divided by 2 height. Alright, so this is going to be our rectangle. We don't have any colors or anything added to it yet. Not really doing a whole lot with this, but when I run the program, I get my red background and a white rectangle. So let's make that rectangle green. Let's change the fill color. There we go. 255 in the middle there. There we go. So here's our green rectangle and our red rectangle. And now what we want it to do now is as I move my mouse from left to right, I want those colors to switch. So we're going to do an if statement to check for the mouseX position. So our condition is going to be if mouseX is less than width divided by 2, then we're going to draw the rectangle. So I'm going to enclose the rectangle commands here inside of this if statement. I'm going to indent over a little bit. So what this is doing is checking. So is the mouse left of the middle of the screen? That's going to be my comment that goes on this line, just to remind myself of what I'm doing here. And then down here, this is the commands that draw green rectangle on left half of screen. All right. So there we go. Now, when I move, so when I move my mouse to the right, the green rectangle goes away. So now I need to check to see if the mouse is on the right side of the screen. And when it does go to the right side of the screen, we're going to draw the green rectangle there. So let's stop the program. All right. So if mouseX is greater than width divided by 2, now we want to do the same commands that we had before, but this time we want to change where the rectangle gets drawn. So instead of 0, 0, that's the top left corner, we're going to go with width divided by 2, 0. So that'll move the x coordinate of our rectangle over to the right, and we should get our rectangle that gets drawn on the other side of the screen. So there we go. Now, the only problem with this would be this little spot here in the middle, which causes neither rectangle to be drawn. So we have to think about what is our x value here for mouseX. Well, it's right in the middle, so that would be a value of 255. So then we go back and we look at our conditions. And what this condition basically says is that when it's asking, is 255 less than 255? And of course the answer to that is false. So then it checks this one. Is 255 greater than 255? That's also still false, so neither one gets drawn. So in order to include that value of 255, I have to pick one of these basically and say less than or equal to width divided by 2. And now I will not be able to get the green rectangle to disappear. It's always going to be drawn somewhere. Okay? If I do the same thing for this conditional statement that my mouse is on now, or that my cursor is on now, then something interesting happens, because now it's possible for both of those conditions to be true, in which case 2 green rectangles get drawn. Another way around that might be to use, instead of just if statements, I could do else if statements. So the else added to the beginning of this line makes it so that this can only get checked if the first condition is false, right? So if this is true, it's going to skip over this else if statement here, and nothing after that else will actually happen until we close that else statement. Okay? So now we can go back to having only one green rectangle at a time, even if we're in the middle, because if the first one is true, then it will skip over this one completely, which helps our logic there a little bit. Okay. So now we're going to expand this a little bit more. We're gonna do some traffic signals here. We're going to divide the screen into thirds, and then we're going to draw little circles, kind of like a traffic light. So when I get in the red section, I get a red light. Yellow section, in the yellow light. Green section, I've got a green light. So I'm going to make a more fitting screen size here to be divided into thirds. And I'm also just going to go ahead and delete these, and we're going to draw some lines to divide the screen. So line, I want a line at, let's see, 0, 0, all the way down to 0 height. I want a second line. Actually, I don't need that line there. We're dividing it in thirds, so let's think about this. I need 2 lines. The first one needs to be 2/3 of the way over, or 1/3 of the way over, so that would be width divided by 3 is where I want the first line. And then the second one needs to be 2/3 of the way over, so width divided by 3, but it's 2 times the width divided by 3. There we go. I think I feel a little bit better about that. 0, and then we want to go from 2 times width divided by 3 all the way down to the height. So that's the second point of my line, and then I need to fix that coordinate up here too. So a vertical line means both of the x coordinates are the same. So I got to make sure both of my x coordinates are the same. Now I should have 3 segments of my screen here. There we go. Of course, I got a background now of red. Let's change that to a background of white. And there we go. So now what I want this to do is if my mouse cursor is over here, I want it to draw a red circle up at the top. If my mouse is in here, I want it to draw a yellow circle. And if my mouse is over here, I want it to draw a green circle. Okay, so I need my checks. So the first check is if I'm left of that first line. So if mouseX is less than width divided by 3, and I could even say less than or equal to width divided by 3. And then I want to draw an ellipse. So we're going to give the fill command, and it's going to be our red ellipse. So we want 255, 0, 0. Then I'm going to do the ellipse command. And the center of this ellipse, I want it to be in the center of the screen for the x coordinate. So I want to do width divided by 2. The height, let's say we want a height of, let's see, 1/3 of the height. So let's do height divided by 3. That's a good place for the center. And I want this to be a width divided by 3 and a height divided by 3. Actually, no, let's do width divided by, or let's do height divided by 3 for the circle. All right, so let's do all that. Let's do height divided by 3 for both dimensions of the circle, so, because otherwise it'll be an ellipse. And let's just test this one out real quick. So if I'm to the left, I should be drawing a red circle. Let's see if that's where I wanted it to be drawn. Yeah, kind of. I actually think I want to move it up a little bit higher. Let's change the height on this. Let's do height divided by 4. Oh, no, that would be the dimensions. I want to keep the dimensions the same, but I'm changing the y value. So let's try that. There we go. Okay, and I might get a little overlap on my circles here, but that's okay. So now I need to check if it's in the middle. Now this is the part that gets tricky because, let me close this out. Because I could probably do this with lots of if statements, but there's a symbol here called an and that is going to make this really easy to check, because I want the yellow circle to light up when the mouse is between x equals 200 here and when it's less than x equals 600. So I'm going to do if mouse x is greater than or equal to 200. Actually, I should do greater than 200, or actually width divided by 3. And mouse x is less than 2 times width divided by 3, and we'll make that less than or equal to. We'll just go ahead and say for all of these checks, less than or equal to for the left side and just greater than for the right side. That way we don't have any of those glitches we talked about earlier. All right, so now we're going to do a fill of yellow, so that's going to be red and green. And we want to do an ellipse, width divided by 2, so I want the x-coordinate to be the same, and I want the height to now to be halfway down. And then we'll do height divided by 3, height divided by 3. That gives us a good circle size, same as the first one. And now, I got my red light, I got my yellow light. And the yellow light goes away. All right? So that AND statement allowed me to make sure that both of those conditions are true. It will only draw the yellow circle if the mouse is both greater, the mouse X is greater than width divided by 3, and that's the key symbol here, and the mouse X is less than 2/3 of the width. So it's checking to see if it's in between. Both of these conditions have to be true in order for these commands to run. And that's a compound logic statement, the AND symbol. It's ampersand, ampersand. All right. Now we just have our last square. So if the mouse X is greater than 2 times width divided by 3, then we're going to draw our green circle. So fill 255, nope, sorry, 0, 255, 0. And then we want to draw the final ellipse. So we'll do width divided by 2, keeping it in the middle. We'll now do 3 times height divided by 4, because that'll be 3/4 the height. And then the size of the circle, still height divided by 3 for the width, height divided by 3 for the height. Now we should have our green light. Nope, we're gonna do, oh, forgot a semicolon. There we go. I'll run that. There's my red light, yellow light, green light. There we go. All right, so with that logic, with that ability to use if statements with an AND, you should be able to do the homework assignment, which was, instead of dividing it into 3 sections, I wanted you to divide the screen into 4 vertical sections. When my mouse is in the first section, I want you to draw a red square all the way to the right. When it's in the second section, you should be drawing a green square all the way to the right. And in the third section, it should draw a blue square all the way to the right. And then if you move your mouse all the way over to where the squares are, nothing gets drawn. So those squares should disappear when you leave their section, kind of like these circles do. And when you get to the 4th section, all of the symbols should disappear. All right? Good luck.